Hi, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween,
how's
listeners.
How's your October, Pete?
My October?
Yeah,
my October is going.
How's your October?
Going very well. It's hot.
It's very hot in LA right now.
It is a warm LA October, which I don't like it. I need that.
A lot of roasted
done.
pumpkins out in TJ's right now.
Oh, Lord.
Our fall displays look lovely, by the way.
Well, as always. Word of advice, don't carve your jack-o'-lantern just yet in Los Angeles because it will rot. We learned that the hard way. Several Halloweens now.
Oh, yeah. Those TJ pumpkins only keep for like a day after you carve them.
Yes, indeed. And we're talking about Trader Joe's, not Tijuana. Listeners, just in case. Tijuana pumpkins, on the other hand, they last because they're made of chalk.
What's a Tijuana?
A Tijuana, it's a piggy bank, is what it is.
Sure,
it's a bank. But it looks like a pumpkin. Listeners, we have a very special bonus episode for you.
So we've never done a celebrity interview on our show before.
Right.
And we talked to a really fun guest.
We got a good one, listeners. In case you are a deep Nightmare on Elm Street fan, you could tell by the song. We are talking today to one Ms. Lisa Wilcox.
Not Tuesday night. Yeah.
True, that's true.
So I know that so we covered Nightmare on Elm Street for The Dream Master.
Yes.
In 2020, we did that with Jacob Randall, friend of the pod.
Mm-hmm.
Told a very cute story about writing to Lisa Wilcox when he was a child. You love this movie, and you love Lisa's character. You love Lisa.
I do.
So I know this was a really fun interview for you to do.
Yes, I was very excited to speak with Lisa Wilcox. I love Alice Johnson, the character that she plays in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. It's just such a great role, iconic, kind of a soft reboot of the chronology of the timeline in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and we kind of brought in a whole new group of Elm Street kids into the mix, and Alice and the gang were just kind of at the top of that. And this character I just really connected with from a very young age, and I've always just kind of like looked up to Alice Johnson and her journey. And so the fact that we were able to speak with Lisa and have her come on and talk to us about her character and lots of really fun questions in the interview about that, as well as some upcoming projects that she's working on and some things that she's got in the hopper ready to be watched. So, listeners, this is a really fun one.
Yeah.
Scott, you love Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
I love Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, what's interesting for my journey for Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is I never watched the sequels. I talk about it on the episodes all the time. I did not grow up on the sequels. I really only found I only watched Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time when I was in college. Mm-hmm. So, and then you introduced me to all of them. And I have to say, I think that The Dream Master is the one, it grows on me the most, that I like it more with each viewing. Right. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, like we said, there's tons of really fun stories from Lisa about casting and working with all of the great actors in those two movies. And she has also some really fun stories about working with them today and how she's just kept in touch with them throughout the years. And, through horror cons and conventions and things like that. Instagram, social media, running businesses. Her and Tuesday Night, ran a business together for many years. And so I love that. I love that they all kind of kept in contact, regardless of the biz. I feel like they all just kind of remained a bit of a friendship there, which I thought was really great to hear.
Well, we should probably get into it.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for everyone to listen. So, listeners, buckle up. And here is our interview with Lisa Wilcox.
Enjoy
it. Welcome to the show, Lisa Wilcox. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Lisa.
Well, thank you. And thank you.
My name's Pete, and this is Scott.
Hello.
So,
hello, Pete. Hello, Scott.
So we're a married couple. We run a podcast. It's called Movies That Made Us Gay. And we've covered two Nightmare on Elm Street films so far. We covered part 2, which is, canonically or not canonically, it's the gay one.
Gay
right?
classic.
Yes.
But separately, we covered
Mark Patton would say cheers to that.
Yep.
Absolutely, and we love Mark Patton. We haven't had a chance to meet him formally, but we saw his documentary Scream Queen.
We saw it at Outfest.
We saw it at Outfest, and we loved it. But
Oh no, the documentary is absolutely. I was
Good.
blown away.
it's
Yeah.
so good, right? Yeah. But I really took it upon myself to say we need to do Nightmare 4, and for a very specific reason. I grew up on horror movies. I grew up on Nightmare on Elm Street in particular. And there was just something about the Dream Master and where the storyline kind of picked up from part 3 and kind of this trilogy that 3, 4, and 5 created, and then the 2 movies, your movies 4 and 5, with your character in particular, Alice, and just the way that when I tell you the way that Alice Johnson spoke to me as a young person growing up, I was maybe in junior high school, and I watched these movies and I thought, this is what I want my high school experience to be. Maybe that's twisted, not running from a murderer, but the friendship group.
Sure. It's the close-knit group of friends that are in the movie.
The way that was portrayed for me really stuck with me. So I really wanted to cover that movie, and I really wanted to reach out to you to hopefully, to speak with us. So thank you for coming on our show, and we have a lot of questions for you. So let's see. So I did a little bit of research, and actually you did an appearance on a podcast that friends of ours run called Happy Horror Time, and you did it with your co-star and director of Reunion from Hell 2. So it was it was back in November. It's called Happy Horror Time, and they interviewed you about that. And I want to talk about.
Yep.
We want to talk about Reunion from Hell 2. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about you, Lisa, and kind of your background and how you got into A Nightmare on Elm Street and this franchise that we love so much. So I know that you did a lot of theater before, going into movies and television. But can you tell us a little bit about your kind of history with acting and if you really had any interest in the horror genre at all when you got started?
Well, we'll start there. I've always loved horror since I was little bitty. So in the old days, so I grew up in Missouri, and we had a basement, and we had a piano down there. I mean, it was an amazing play space. And Saturdays were special because it was cartoons all morning long. Then the Monkees would play around noon for half an hour of the Monkees. Then it would be all afternoon black and white horror films.
Yes.
Old stuff. The Bela Lugosi's and the Frankensteins and the Twilight Zone and all that stuff. So I became intrigued with horror since a very young age. And in fact, the first novel I actually read, it was in 4th grade, and it was not on the reading list, was Bram Stoker's Dracula. And
so good.
And I loved book clubs back then at school.
Right.
You could order books and whatever. Dracula was on this, elementary school thing, or maybe I rented it because my mom would always take us to the library. I was a huge bookworm, and literally read Dracula.
Wow.
Under my electric blanket with the electric blanket light under the covers, read, and that novel is hundreds of pages long.
It is. For a 4th grader, that's a huge undertaking.
4 in the morning, and then get up and go to school. Okay.
Wow.
So anyway, so that gives you a little bit of a background. One more thing about that is I went to UCLA, and the first year you had to stay in the dorms. So in the dorm, you have a roommate, and it's not a very big room, and you have your little single bed, but you can put whatever you want up on the walls. So all the other gals had like rock star posters, and I think my roommate had who did she have? Was it Styx or no? I can't think of it.
Sure.
Anyway, I had Bela Lugosi. I had
Love
a huge poster of Bela Lugosi on my side. So they're probably like, what is this cute little blonde have Bela Lugosi in her freaking wall?
That is amazing. I love that story. I mean,
So acting wise, it really was all, I guess I could, an accident meant to be.
Sure.
Guess you could say. My first play I ever did was in Missouri. We're in a little town called Washington, 9th grade, and MASH, you know, the TV show MASH.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Was actually a play.
Okay.
So, and I was very introverted, a bookworm and that kind of thing, but I was fascinated by just characters and theater and play scripts and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I auditioned and I played the role of Ms. Randazzo. 2 scenes, comedic relief, and it was played in front of the curtain. So think of the name Ms. Randazzo. Red lipstick, you know, the pencil skirt, sure. And, you know, and back then I was a secretary, and I'm supposed to go and saunter over and sit cross-legged on his desk, and we have a little banter or something. Of course, now that you could never do that today. Sure. But anyway, especially when, you know, we're 9th graders, 10th graders. So this auditorium's filled, and I am walking, and there's footlights on a stage, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be up, shining light, or locked down. So, right. And they're all supposed to be locked. Well, one of them wasn't locked. And this is where I have to walk. I walk, my foot goes down. I have the pointiest, strappiest high heels you can imagine. And I am trapped by this footlight. Oh, no. Okay. And the audience is laughing because they think this is part of the script. They don't know, right? Mm. But I literally cannot untape, you know, the steno pad has gone flying and everything. So backstage, they finally realized something was amiss. So, and I was literally center stage. So the guy who played Hawkeye opens the curtain. He untangles me from the footlight and proceeded to do the scene.
Oh my God.
So
that's amazing.
And you can't make this stuff up, guys. So the next day at school, and nobody knew me. Again, I was very introverted and whatnot, but then everybody knew me. And they're like, oh my God, we thought it was part of the, you know, anyway. So shortly thereafter, my father was offered a great job in California. So we moved to Irvine, California. His job was in Newport, whatever. I'm making some friends in Irvine. And a friend said, a friend's brother who's older said, I'm doing an audition at Buddy Ebsen's Playhouse in Newport Beach. Do you want to come with me? And I'm like, okay, sure. Why not? So I go. And I'm just sitting in this beautiful theater, just watching the auditions happening. And this lady kept poking my shoulder saying, you're auditioning, right? You're auditioning. I'm like, no. Because now I've decided I want to pursue my life in the medical field. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh.
But she was very insistent, kept poking my shoulder. I'm like, okay, fine. And I auditioned, and I got the lead role of Girl in Lanford Wilson's play, The Hot L, Baltimore.
Wow.
And this was equity waiver, and I received awards. And again, this is during high school. So I don't even know how I did high school schoolwork and did rehearsals at night, but sure. I was bitten by the bug. And after that experience, I did play after play after play after play, and then went to UCLA theater arts degree. Wow. So that's how I got into acting.
That's amazing. I love that. So I did doing a little bit of research on you. I know that there is kind of a fun story that you have about being cast as Alice, and just kind of with your look and your hair color and the other girls involved. And can you talk to us a little bit or tell that story about being cast as Alice in this movie?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm out of college, and fortunately I started working as an actress like right away. Did General Hospital, had a recurring role on that, and other things. And so then my agent said, I've submitted you for A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Master. And I was like, oh my God, really? Because again, I'm already a huge fan, like of horror and the films and all that stuff. So anyway, but I was turned away. They wouldn't audition me because, again, my hair color, I was a virgin platinum blonde hair.
Wow.
Barbizon makeup. I played lots of, cheerleaders and that kind of thing. Sure. Other deeper roles too. But anyway, so, and Annette Benson is the one who's the casting director from Nightmare 1 through 5.
Okay.
Said that, they couldn't find their Alice, and I was in their reject pile. Well, they couldn't find their Alice, so they went to the reject pile. Hi.
Wow.
And read the script, totally identified with Alice so much. Oh my gosh. And got the chance to audition. I had a call back on a Friday. Had a huge over 100 people wedding that Sunday.
Oh, geez.
And I learned on my honeymoon that I got the role of Alice.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was your wedding.
Okay.
I thought you were just attending one. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. Okay.
And then they said, we want to dye your hair.
Right. Because Alice is a redhead, I guess, in the movies.
Yes. And my mother's a redhead. I have nothing against red hair. But I said, can we do a rinse instead? And they're like, okay. But I may as well have dyed it because the rinse thing was such an ordeal every morning.
Right. It's just going to kind of stick
and it dyed my hair anyway.
Yeah.
It changed the color of my hair. But well worth it.
Right. So, okay. So you're a horror fan. You're, lifelong horror fan. You get cast in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. At this point, this is the fourth one. And
Freddy Mania of the 80s.
I was going to say, ever since 2, they were kind of banging one out every year.
Almost one every year, I think.
So you're kind of right in the middle of the height of kind of Freddy Mania. And then this movie kind of gets its reputation as maybe the MTV Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's an MTV Freddy. It's got all these cool songs. There's a Sinead O'Connor song, and there's all these really great new wave.
You get the really cool direction of some of the scenes. Just kind of.
Well, Rennie Harlan is this kind of young up and coming director who's kind of trying to show off his
and Robert
skills.
Englund, I think, coined the phrase.
Sure,
because he gets interviewed, but Nightmare 4 is like the MTV of them all. And in a way, I thought. Because when I watched it, I felt it's a date movie. It's not that gruesome.
Right.
There's not blood splatter. There's no, young girls running around with their boobs exposed.
Right.
I mean, it was a good date movie.
No, you're absolutely right. And like I said, it has that high school teen friend group.
Yes.
So it's good. It's something that kids can watch and just kind of relate to. I mean, like we said, there's Freddy and all of that, but at the same time, it does feel like a great date movie, a great high school movie, just something for kids to kind of watch and enjoy. Did you feel right off the bat like I'm part of something that's like huge? I mean,
well, I already felt. Yeah, because Nightmare 3 was huge.
Yeah.
So it's like we were in a big franchise, But I can't say we thought Nightmare 4 would do as well as it did because I don't know. You just don't know.
You never.
You just don't know, So, but.
And didn't I read that Nightmare 4 was number 1 at the box office for like months?
Yes,
it made an insane lot of money for the 80s.
It beat out that summer for 6 weeks. It was like number 1, and it beat out. I can't recall the list right now, but huge movies that came out that summer. But Nightmare 4 was kicked butt.
Yeah. Wow. Just a side note, we mentioned that this movie doesn't have, it's not as gruesome as, say a Friday the 13th.
That said,
but
the cockroach scene.
Brooke's death.
So Brooke's death. So I did not really grow up on the Nightmare sequels. This one got me into all of them.
Guilty.
And when he showed me this movie, the cockroach scene, it is probably one of the most disgusting scenes I have ever seen in a movie, period.
I'll give you that. It is really disgusting. The moment when she's holding the weight thing and the elbows.
The elbows.
Split. It was like, oh.
Yes.
That must have hurt.
Absolutely. And 3, I feel like really kind of started this wave of these kind of, I guess you could say over the top, but creative, death scenes for these kids. And this movie really took that and kind of ran with it with Brooke and with Toy, her scene in the classroom, in this, her dream. I still think to this day it's really spooky, that she's just like dreaming during this test. And we've all had nightmares about taking tests and
I still have them.
Yes.
So
I think 3 and 4 have so many relatable things for teenagers and adults too. Because as adults we ought to we were all a teenager
Absolutely.
at one time or
Yeah.
another, right?
Yeah.
And I think the characters in 3 and 4 are just like so relatable,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Take you on a fun journey. And
Yes.
Nightmare 5 too, quite frankly.
Yes. We love Nightmare 5. Yeah. Great continuation of your story arc. But talking about relatable characters, I mean, Alice starts off as, you know, she has this great friend group. She's got a lot of friends. I would say a varying like stature, because Toy's character is a little bit more of a kind of a geeky girl. You know,
Yeah.
Alice's brother Rick is just like super cute. He's got this great girlfriend,
Mr. Hottie.
you know, and but Alice is the one that's a little bit, you know, she's reserved. She's kind of lost in her thoughts, and she has these daydreams that she gets lost in. And kind of throughout the movie kind of takes on these elements of all of her friends to become this really strong character. And, you know, we love Alice's scene where she's getting ready for her final showdown.
Her Sarah Connor montage.
You know?
Oh, yeah, baby.
So
and
good.
takes all the pictures off the mirror.
Yes. Oh,
to reveal her true self.
Can I tell you, as like a 12, 13-year-old little queer boy watching this, I'm just like, that's it. That's high school. I'm going to have so many friends that they're going to cover up the mirror in my room, and just thinking about this. And Alice, like I said, she starts off as this young, or as this kind of insecure girl, and at the end,
very much.
At the end, she gets Dan. She gets
the major league hunk.
She gets the major league hunk.
Which is every girl's dream, to get the hunk, you know, and to kill the big bully in her life. And in this film, it was Freddy Krueger, not other students.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, like I was saying, as a young queer kid, just kind of coming to terms with who I am and what's going on in my head and you know, my relationships in this, I really did kind of relate to this character, you know, and I really always did kind of have this love of just being somebody that didn't really know who they were, and through the help of their friends, just kind of understanding, you know, and being kind of more of a fully realized person or whatever. Do you recall, or did you ever realize, that just the horror genre in general has a big queer following, and that your character has a huge queer following? Was that something that just came to you one day, or did you even like?
No, I really didn't. I didn't know until I started doing conventions, actually.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
You know? And then having people come up to my table and this and that, and I'm like, that's fantastic. That's great, you know? And I think too, just that, you know, to be queer, and I mean, all the bullying you had to go through. Oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And so I can see why Nightmare 4 Alice's character would, you know, be an inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, because she was different, but she not that she overcame her differences. She just added more pieces to her life.
Yeah.
From her friends, you know, to be more multidimensional, I guess you could say, and not hide away in daydreams. You know,
right.
We hide in daydreams because we're scared.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there's just, I mean, you know, there have been master's thesis papers on, you know, queer people and horror movies and what the connection is,
the otherness, just kind of relating to something like that,
you know, the final girl and why we relate to all that. So I don't think Scott and I are experts at that by any means, but we definitely have been lifelong horror fans, and so we do kind of understand that aspect of kind of culturally, you know, being drawn to these films and these characters.
I was my childhood was awful. I mean, we moved Fairmount. I'm from Missouri, and we were living in this very wealthy neighborhood, and everyone. I was just this little blonde Christian girl, and there weren't any blonde Christian girls where we were living, and I was bullied at elementary school, like you have no idea.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. It was sad. And so the only way I could get through life was just to bury myself in books.
Right.
And disappear off on these adventures in stories and the characters. And I so badly wanted to be Nancy Drew, so, and it's part of why I know that I felt close to Alice,
right.
Yeah.
And again, the bully was Freddy Krueger in that case, not these nasty girls like in Carrie.
Right? Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, yes. But one of my very favorite horror films, by the way.
So good, so good. But, from somebody that did have, actual real life bullies, in grade school and high school and things like that, watching something like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy was somebody that kind of gave, it was kind of something that I could see as like a stand-in for the bully, and seeing myself kind of like, okay, I can overcome this. This was something that I was scared of as a child because he's like this boogeyman and he's got, these knives and all of that. But now that I'm growing up, I can say, okay, maybe I'm, not as afraid of him, and just escaping into movies and TV for me at least was definitely something that helped kind of get through all of that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is definitely an interesting kind of topic, this whole kind of queer community and their love of the final girl and all of that. And the interesting thing about Alice is that she's a final girl twice.
Sure.
You survived 2 movies, and then,
yep.
For whatever reasons, they said, all right, we're doing another one, and we're just going in
a very different direction. And also, Alice gets to save the man at the end of the movie. It's not like Alice is left alone at the end of that movie.
Right.
Like she gets to save the guy.
Yeah.
Which is something that you don't really see a lot in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, Alice she's a strong chick. But not that she even knows it.
Right.
She just does what is right.
Yeah, absolutely. And and then in 5 we get this continuation of Alice graduates high school, and her and Dan kind of attempts to kind of build this life together, and we've got some new friends, and it goes a certain direction, but by the end of the movie it's like Alice is pregnant, Dan's gone out of the picture, and it's like there's so many ways that like we could have gone forward with this story.
Sure.
And we just, we as fans like loved it so much, and it's just, it's unfortunate that it went down that way, but there's always fan fiction. Is there any fan fiction out there that's kind of, or that you're aware of, that's extended Alice's story with Jacob?
I'm told about it and whatnot, but I can't say I've read it or anything like that. And while we're talking about 5, it did terribly at the box office. And but in 1989, but we have to look at the taboo subject matter we're talking about in a horror film, not an after-school special, but in a horror film.
Yeah,
we're talking about
major
sex
issues
before marriage, teen pregnancy, abortion. Then we have Greta and the anorexia and bulimia, and that. She's supposed to be the beautiful model, and the mother pushing, and Dan's father pushing in for the football, and all the pressures that teens have in real life in 1989. But it wasn't so much welcomed, apparently.
Sure.
It's only many years later now that it is so much more appreciated about, I call it a brave little film. I really do. I thought it was very brave to touch on real matters that really do concern teenagers.
Absolutely.
And still do.
Yeah. Like I said, I grew up on these, so I've been watching them my whole life, and I introduced them to Scott as an adult. And so it's interesting because to me, that was the script. That was the story, and these were things that Alice and her friends were going through. And Scott, and we're sitting there watching it, and Scott's like, they're like talking about an abortion. Like, what
is wild?
What is going on? Like, I guess so. Yeah, and and like you said, with Greta and eating disorders and all.
Was she going to give up her child?
Yes.
To Dan's parents.
Right, to the parents.
All these decisions
Oh
this
my
little
gosh.
young teenager is having to deal with, and her boyfriend dies.
Yes.
Right.
To say nothing of now we're getting.
It was heavy, man. It was heavy.
Heavy, and now we're getting real Freddie backstory of like his mother in the insane asylum and all these men. Like, there's a lot going on. And me, like a Catholic my whole life, I'm like, oh, this nun and all religious iconography in this movie. I'm just like, what is happening?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I do feel like I will take 5 over Freddy's dead.
Yeah.
any day of the week. But yeah, maybe we'll look up some of that fan fiction of Alice kind of extending her story. But very recently there is a fan-made Pet Cemetery sequel with Miko Hughes that's about to be released on YouTube.
Oh no,
that's
awesome.
awesome.
I think that it's.
Is it out already?
I think that's actually Nightmare. It's not Pet Cemetery.
No, with Miko Hughes. There's a
The famine. I thought that was a Nightmare one.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
it is a nightmare.
It's for Nightmare.
It is a nightmare. It's an extension.
It's a fan-made short.
Sorry,
with Miko Hughes from New Nightmare. Yeah.
So they've
Neat.
Yeah, and he's involved. He came back, all these years later, and so it's a short film. It's about 35 minutes. We'll have to watch it, but I mean, hey.
Well, yeah, no, I'll check it out. Hey, maybe we can do something with Alice and Jacob.
You know what I mean? Grown up Jacob. Let's get this ball rolling.
I always think, just with the wild success of the new Halloween movies, this has to be being discussed at Warner. Of just what can we do with this franchise and Freddy? And it's just, I think for Nightmare, it's just really hard. Of that, you really just can't plug in just like a new director with the story like you can Michael Myers. It's just, I think it's just so tied to Robert. And kind of discussing that is so complicated. Of just like, well, is he going to do it?
I mean,
is he going to want to do it?
He doesn't want to do the makeup anymore.
Yeah.
I think a story could come up where he doesn't have to wear the makeup.
Right.
But I'm no screenwriter.
Sure.
So.
And you can't blame him for not wanting to.
It does feel like there's a gem right there in their hands to do something. Yeah. One last time,
Speaking of Robert, can you just tell us a little bit about working with him? I know he just, nothing but great praise from everybody that he works with. But
he is just such a unique and fascinating individual.
Yeah.
And he's very kind. He has such love for the arts. It's just uncanny.
Yeah.
And of course, I've known him a long time. I know his wife, Nancy, not to be confused with Heather Langenkamp. Right. He's very passionate and he's also incredibly intelligent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's humble and he loves to share. I mean, I'm telling you, he loves, and we all do, like posters from all over the world. And I mean, he is genuinely like, wow, I've never seen this before. This is amazing. It's from Taiwan. And he'll look at the colors. I mean, and that's real. That is real.
Yeah.
He so appreciates this adventure that he's had and what it continues to bring to him. Yeah. And myself as well. I'm still always like something new and something. And anyway, we're we're a genuine group, actually, all of us in the cast.
Yeah. It really sounds like it, because I mean, from what I've seen of what's the really long documentary that everybody Never Sleep Again.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, it's a lot of movie, but I was riveted, and everybody, just the fact that everybody came back, to talk about it, and just seeing you, doing panels and doing conventions and all of that. It's just really great to see that people really have kind of an affection for this time.
Well, listen, as long as you all will have us, we'll keep coming.
Yeah,
because we love
it. Yeah, great. And just kind of one last thing about Robert. It was just, you can really see that it. I feel like just the character and probably even the entire franchise really just became what it was because of the kind of performance that he created for this role, you know? And in other franchises, other horror franchise, it's not tied to the actor, you know? Maybe because
Jason and Michael could be really played by anyone.
Yeah. But this is it. Like we said, it has to be Robert. He has a story about part 2 where there's a pickup shot, and it's through steam in a steamy shower, and he wasn't available, and they got a double, and it's in the movie, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Even just the silhouette, it's not his physicality of the way he just like puts his weight on one side because the glove is heavy, and just things that he thought of about, you know, this character. And it's just, it just really makes all the movies,
physicality of a character is a really big deal, and he's a really good actor, you know, and his physicality is very important. How a character walks or holds their hands or moves their head, or I mean, it seems subtle. And it is subtle, but it's intentional.
Absolutely.
Because that's we actors have to do. We have to make choices like that for a character.
Yeah.
And that's why I studied Grotowski.
Sure.
Degree from UCLA. And you know, and I've played everything from nuns to prostitutes. And believe me, the way I move or walk is different than when I play a nun versus a prostitute, right?
right. So. And it's those subtle things that we don't notice until they're not there, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, when it's...
Well said.
You know?
Very well said.
Because when it's that body double, it's like, okay, well, that's clearly not right. You know, you can't even see his face. But we're like,
so I mentioned the other night of that now it's like Star Wars, you can be dead for decades, but the Star Wars canon can still put you in there somewhere. Of that, they will somehow make a computer generate that actor, and if you use a double, you can kind of match them a little bit,
glue their face on,
and
there.
I'm sure that they could probably do something like that for Nightmare, but do we really want it though?
Like for Robert to do a voice performance, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, do we want something like that?
I don't know. I don't want it.
Yeah,
I want the actor.
I know.
That's hard.
Bittersweet, quite frankly. It's just like
maybe something animated, like a comic book kind of a situation, but animated. I would love a horror animated movie. I'm in. But this is just me, super fan, saying like, give me as much more Nightmare as possible.
And speaking of, I thought the comic book concept in Nightmare 5, I thought that was just so clever,
so cool,
and so interesting, and so on point.
Absolutely,
with comics being so huge, you know. So
and parents having this kind of fear of like comic books and video games being too bloody or gory, and their kids kind of being, you know, desensitized to all of that, and it's all that stuff kind of tied together. I love that. Yeah. Another thing about Nightmare 5 is that not only did you survive, but Yvonne Kelly Jo Minter, she survived to the end of the movie with you as well. And we love
Kelly Jo Minter.
Yes,
correct.
We love Kelly Jo Minter. And I feel like the thing about, I mean, a lot of the horror franchise, slasher franchise get into this whole like female empowerment, or like we said with The Final Girl or whatever. But I think in particular, your 2, 4, and 5 just kind of really showed that off with Alice. Like we said, kind of saving the day for Dan at the end of part 4, when he's just kind of like, he's kind of the damsel in distress at the end of that one, and you and Kelly at the end of 5 making it out alive. So, was just kind of like, I don't know, was female empowerment kind of on your mind when you were making these, or was it just like, you know, this is a script, this is how it's going? Was that something that you kind of enjoyed?
I mean. So you're kind of asking like about like my feminism kind of thing?
I guess, yeah, just because it just ties in so much to this role, really.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've been a feminist. I was raised that way. Yeah, you know.
Great.
I have a sister, and we were raised we could do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Whatever we put our mind to.
Yeah.
It was not anything like, oh, well, when am I going to have grandchildren? Or you need to get married, you know, or whatever. It was never that. It was like, and they completely supported my acting career, which kind of came at the end of high school when I said, this is definitely what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that is great. And they were, oh my gosh, my mom was at not every performance, but they supported me very appropriately. But they're like, but we really would like you to get a college education.
Sure.
So, and I was like, that's fine. There's UCLA.
BFA.
It's in Los Angeles. Perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I don't know. So I feel like I lived in a very, what's the word? In an environment where just put your mind to it and we will support you and you will do it.
Great. That's awesome. Okay. Well, let's kind of bring it back to kind of the present. And I want to talk a little bit about, or have you talk to us a little bit about, Reunion from Hell 2 and getting to work with Danny again and Mark Patton.
Well, that was quite an anomaly, honestly. I mean, it was like, oh my God, Danny, and I'm like, what, So it was very kind of like with Danny Castle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because his real name is like his character.
Yes, yeah.
So you know that.
Yes.
So, but it was almost like, a month ago we just did Nightmare on Elm Street 4 or did Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we have kept in touch. All the cast of Nightmare 4, we have kept in touch. So it was just felt so natural and good for Hayden who put us together.
Yes.
And then to work with Mark Patton. Okay. He is the best thing in the film. I'm sorry. He is so freaking funny.
Okay.
And talk about physicality and his choices. I can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah.
Honestly, he is just blown away. Because he left acting for a very, 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 very long time.
Yes, absolutely.
And all I'd seen him in was Nightmare 2,
Mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now to work with him and then see this character he came up with, I was just totally blown away. So, and Dan is just such a sweetheart and always, we had a hoot of a good time.
That's exciting. Do you have any information about when it's going to become available on, streaming or anything like that, or do we just have to wait and see?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll keep our eye out for that one.
I imagine soon.
Yes, I'm. It's looking like it's going to be soon. So I kind of want to talk a little about. You mentioned, conventions, going to these cons and kind of that circuit and meeting fans, in person and them kind of telling you their story and all that. And with social media being what it is and, being as accessible as we are on social media, that's how we just reached out to you via Instagram, to talk to you about coming on our show. It's interesting the way it's kind of, in the 80s, if I wanted to write to Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare 4, I would have had to have found, whatever movies, New Line Cinema.
I miss fan mail, actually.
Right?
I miss the envelopes and the fan mail and my agent saying, you have a box here, Lisa.
Yeah.
Come pick it up. And going through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of miss it that way, actually. Anyway, so your question is kind of like, how do I feel about social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think social media, did it kind of bring the casts a little bit closer together? Was it something that helped, or had the cons kind of always been there to kind of bring everybody?
I think the conventions really, they started about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one of the first chillers.
Okay.
On the East Coast. I think I did their second one. And that they kind of were like the first.
Yeah. Kind
of, and I guess maybe Dragon Con too and whatnot. But that's like, it's 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
So at the conventions, that's where as cast members, we got to, see each other again and whatnot. Although several of the cast members I have stayed in touch with even after Nightmare on Elm Street 4, like Toy, who plays Sheila, the asthma attack. Mm-hmm. She had moved to New York and she's moving back to LA. And I'm like, come live with me. Let's be roommates. Brooke Fee's Bug Girl.
Yes.
Her son was the same age as my eldest son. So we would go bowling and we would do things like that.
Oh.
Tuesday, like Kristen, we had a business for almost 10 years called Toe Brights. So interesting enough, somehow we stayed in touch, but with or without the conventions. But definitely the conventions. I've now been doing some with the Nightmare 5 cast.
Okay.
And I hadn't seen the man who plays Jacob since the film.
Right, yeah.
Okay, since 1989. Isn't that crazy? So I had never seen him.
And he's still working. I think
seen her forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the conventions are definitely a wonderfully bonding experience for all cast, all cast. And also just to be in the flesh and blood of fans and meet and hear stories and the emotions that abound. And it's just wonderful. Social media, yes, is a great way to, get your, I'll be here and here's a picture of that. To me, I'm sorry, but I have to do social media, but HATE hate
it's a lot.
It's so much pressure.
Yep.
And I was raised in a way where you don't flaunt yourself.
Right.
That's so conceited.
Right.
You don't take pictures of yourself and show that's like what, Playboy and Playgirl were for. So to have periodicals, okay? So I find it really stressful to keep up with day to day, and I can't do pictures every day. One, I don't do my hair and makeup every day, whatever. Yes, I can put on baseball cap and sunglasses, whatever. Okay, I've done that, but it's really stressful for me, quite frankly, to keep the more content all the time, every week. It's very, very stressful.
Yeah, which is completely understandable. But I do have to say, as a fan, when things like Instagram did first start coming around, and I realized, hey, some of these accounts this isn't a publicist. This is just them.
Yeah.
And, when I did realize, hey, I can look up people like you, and then I would see maybe you're tagged in a photo with some of the other cast members. It's just really nice as a fan to see like, oh, okay, you guys are still kind of interacting at, maybe a con or maybe just out at an event.
I agree.
So that's really nice.
But we have to come up with that content to let everybody know. Why do I have to let everybody know?
Yes.
And I'm not tech savvy. And it gives me hives. I swear. And and so it's and Facebook, the whole face group thing, and I really pretty much don't do Facebook at all anymore. I had some photos, like every couple months, I'll go through photos I took at conventions. For me, Instagram is really easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Facebook is, I don't know. And I downloaded, 15, 20 photos that I was going to put on Facebook. Facebook is just easier for me to do it on my computer.
Yeah.
Instagram's easy on my phone. But again, I'm not tech savvy as much as I'd like to be, but that won't be changing anytime soon.
No.
So I just, but then the strike happened and I'm like, oh, so I don't think I can put this up on Facebook now because I can't be, it's just been such a mess with the strike, which is 5 months now. So it looks like Writers Guild, but anyway, the whole social media thing is, and I do have someone, Darius, who will help me at times, and he's like, Lisa, you've got to do it. You got to do it. I'm like, I know, I have to do it. Tag.
It's for the people.
Write everything. Hashtag. All that. I mean, it can take me a good 40 minutes to put up one post. I swear.
Yeah. I mean, right there with you. We have our little dog and pony show podcast that we're doing, trying to get traction on. So we putting those messages out and getting content out every day. It really is like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
But
and everyone says it's like a job now. It's like part of our job. And it's like, well, I didn't used to have this job. My job was to just go fly, get on a plane, and be in person with people, and then go home and then rest for 48 hours, and then start over, or work on a script, or be working on a part or a role or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's interesting, and I know I have actor friends that love social media, and they're really good at it, and I'm like, kudos to you. That's awesome. I'm more introverted.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like sharing every intimate detail of my life.
Yeah.
So what can I say?
And understandable.
Love me or hate me. I don't care.
This is the real you. But yeah, and I could see where getting actual physical fan mail is definitely more kind of...
It's a little more personal.
Yeah, a more personal experience than, a comment on a photograph. But
yeah. I mean, like I have a granddaughter and stuff, and her mom, asked me not to put any pictures up of her,
sure, yeah.
which I completely respect that,
absolutely. Yeah.
So at one point, it's like, what can I actually share personally from Lisa? You know?
Yeah.
I put things up on my dog. He doesn't mind.
Well, we as the fans would love to see anything that you have to get to show us about your dog. We love it. We'll take anything that we get from you. Really quickly before we wrap it up, we don't want to keep any too long, but Lisa Wilcox, your upcoming projects on IMDb is a mile long. It looks like you've got a lot of things in the hopper coming out. So is there anything that you'd like to talk about briefly, if you can, that's on the horizon that we should look out for?
Well, yeah, no, definitely. There are some. So I'm looking over my doggy. It's his dinner. So several things are streaming right now.
Okay.
One is called Barbie Rehab, spelled Barbie. Barbie Rehab is a totally raunchy, fun, silly show. Yes, it's about Barbie and Barbies.
Okay.
Tom Sizemore did this.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Fei Ling is in it. I have a small recurring role, but that's streaming on many, many platforms. You can find it.
Looks like it's on Tubi.
And then another thing that's streaming right now is called Mystery Spot.
Okay.
Think of a kind of Twilight Zone. I have a very large role in that piece. So Mystery Spot. Also something called Murder Anyone. And most of the cast received awards at the Hollywood Film Festival. I won Best Supporting. So Murder Anyone. So those are three things. And I know there's a fourth one, but I can't recall right now which it is. So those are a lot. But I've also filmed quite a bit of things last year and this year, and I still have 2 more films to do this year that will eventually be out and streaming and, all that kind of thing.
Great.
One of the films I did that I can't mention yet is we're hoping a large theater in the theater release.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which we all now know now that it's so weird. Like everything just streams now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it looks like most of what you told us about now is streaming on Tubi or Roku, so they should be easy for our listeners to go out and find. And we'll keep an eye out for those new things, and hopefully, if you do get a theater release, that would be great to see on the big screen.
Yeah, I have a film, an Irish film I did, Demon Hunter 2. And a new project called The Emerald Forest, which I'm super excited about. I play this very evil queen.
Ooh.
So, and that's just one of several. Woods Witch, I just saw him put something on Instagram. It's called Woods Witch. It's kind of this outrageous comedy horror thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm in, and I'm so glad to be back in acting again because I left for about 20 years. So.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, so great.
Yeah, left to be a mom.
Yep.
To raise your kids. Yeah, that's great. And we welcome you back with open arms. Lisa, this has been so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Talking to you.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Hopefully I'll see you sometime and maybe eventually do that rooftop screening.
Yes. Yes. This is still a possibility. It's still on the table. Just this season wasn't going to work out, but yeah,
gotcha.
as a lifelong fan, not lifelong. I'm I'm not going to age you or myself. I was a teenager when I was watching them, but as somebody who really those movies had a big impact impact on me and your character in particular. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
My gosh. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
you
Lisa.
both are just lovely. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Okay.
We'll let you
Have
know.
a good evening.
You too. We'll let you know when this comes out. We'll tag you. We'll email you. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, great. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.